I'm rascal guru and modern mystic Reverend Nadine Morsch, interfaith minister.
And I'm Siegel, wondering if you're going to finish that last french fry, KT Sunshine.
And us freaks gotta stick together. On the heels of Transgender Visibility Day, we now have an entire anti-trans month brought to you by the Trump regime. It is a presidential action entitled National Child Abuse Prevention Month 2025. And I'll quote from it, if I will. Sadly, one of the most prevalent forms of child abuse facing our country today is the sinister threat of gender ideology. Proponents of the gender ideology movement are outrageously indoctrinating our children with the devastating lie that they are trapped in the wrong body and that the only way they can be truly happy is to alter their sex with hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and sexual mutilation surgery. The evil and backwards lies of gender insanity are robbing our children of their happiness, health, and freedom, while imposing unimaginable heartbreak on parents and families. As I stated during my joint address to the Congress last month, my message to every American child is simple. You are perfect exactly the way God made you.
What an odd thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy about it is that it's doublespeak, right? Because if I was perfect the way God made me, then I would just be accepted as a non-binary person and no one would make a big deal out of it, and I would just be allowed to exist as my authentic self without the fact that I challenge someone's gender normativity being such a problem that now I'm not allowed to exist. Now myself, other non-binary people, other transgender people, we're not allowed to exist. We're not allowed to be children. We're not allowed to grow up. It's sinister and it's very sad. If there was any way to make someone not queer just by robbing them of the language to express themselves, and by robbing them of opportunities to live authentically, don't you think queer people wouldn't exist anymore?
Well,
because that's been the playbook for thousands and thousands of years.
They've already tried torture and that didn't work.
Yeah.
So why would anything ever work?
Yeah. Yep. It's really alarming, and it's pretty sick because our existence doesn't do anything negative to anyone else's life. Unless you yourself are a very deeply indoctrinated, closeted person who's been indoctrinated to believe that the way you feel is wrong and shameful and bad. So you have to make sure that no one has the opportunity to live as themselves, because that would mean that you could live as yourself.
It sounds like you're implying some kind of thought crime.
Yeah.
We have to police our thoughts constantly. Otherwise, we'll think about how we really always wanted to be the other sex. And if, I don't know, maybe if I could just live out that in my head, because I can't live it out in my real life, I could just have all the things I wanted. I could be the girl I always wanted to be, and I'll just keep that in my brain, and no one will ever be able to know.
Yeah. No, it's a definite, intentional indoctrination of queer children to not know themselves, to not have the language to circumscribe their experience or express their experience to other people. Yeah. Also, you know what? The presidential action mentions dysphoria in a way, right? It thinks that dysphoria itself is a response to indoctrination, which is not true. But nowhere is mentioned euphoria, right?
Well, they don't care about people feeling good. That's not their priority here.
No.
But I do think it's really interesting that they use the language trapped, or the old trope, trapped in the wrong body. It's interesting that people used to say things like that, 10, 15 years ago, and the language around that I feel is a lot better. But it's interesting they specifically said it that way.
Well, I also feel like it's one of the few ways that cisgendered people can even wrap their heads around the existence of transgendered people. Because for them, the indoctrination that they received wasn't a problem. Like, they were told that a boy is one thing, a girl is another thing, and
Never think about it.
never think about
That's
it.
all you got to know. Never think about it again.
That's just the way it is. God made you perfect as you are, which is who I tell you to be.
Play with that blue toy, not with that
God-
pink toy.
Dear listener, I need you to know that God made your heart perfect. And the rest of it is really up to you. No matter what this regime says, no matter what the authority figures in your life say, like, you know your heart. And it is just insane that we have to beg for the support to live our lives authentically as ourselves. And that's all we want. We want to be allowed to exist. That's it.
Yeah.
It's really simple. And for some reason,
Yeah.
The-
It's not enough.
I mean,
I'll say from a different perspective, though, there is no God. All the rules are made up, and don't waste your life. You have one. Don't waste it.
yeah, because it is a waste of a life to live
I mean, if there
as
was a God, and I don't believe there is,
someone else.
God wouldn't want you to waste your life.
It's true. He made it for that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, in a completely different podcast, we'll get into my theology, which isn't the black and white theology of the older styles of religion. But
I like that we have two perspectives
Yeah,
on this.
it's good.
Because, like, for me, it's the primordial forces of the universe.
well, yeah.
Like, out of all the hundreds of trillions of atoms in the universe, the atoms that make up you came about through very specific circumstances of causality that created you how you are. It's a secular miracle that you even exist,
Yeah.
and that you're going to let some dickbag tell you you can't be who you are or what you want to be. Fuck that. All the rules are made up. All rules are made up.
Yeah. Well, that's like the neurodiverse commentary on most of it, right? Like, patriarchy can't stand trans bodies because transness undermines patriarchy at its core.
It
Like-
undermines the black and white thinking
Right.
of the dominant philosophical hegemon.
We would like to drag the Overton window forcibly just a little bit closer to humanity. That would be lovely. It's some basic humanity stuff. That's what's really wild about it. And it's harming so many people under the guise of protecting children. Okay, are you going to protect children from parish leaders then? Are you going to protect them from coaches? The people that time and time again are actually arrested for abusing and grooming and sexually trafficking
Of
children?
course not, because as long as the right people are doing it, they don't care that it's happening. That's the thing is, like, it's an in-group and an out-group. If you're in the out-group, they can do anything to you. But that in-group can do any fucking thing it wants. It's rules that bind thee, but do not bind me. They protect me and allow me to do the things I want to do to whoever.
This is a quote. I forgot who it's from, but it's conservatism basically consists of an in-group who the law protects but does not bind, and an
Yes.
out-group who the law binds but does not protect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you said that better than I did. Okay, the thing is, there are no rules. We all know that we all need the same things, largely. We all need food, we all need water, we all need shelter, we need warmth.
Maslow even has a hierarchy of these needs for our convenience and understanding.
Exactly. And if we make up all societal rules, we could just make up rules that we need to meet all those demands. Everything on top of that is superfluous. You can make up a rule as a situation happens, sure, but as long as we all get our basic needs met, nothing else matters. What is the point of civilization if we don't meet those needs for everybody? Or we're going to let a handful of rich dickheads, rich fascists tell us what to do?
I would
and
go
take away our needs from us?
Here's the thing. I mean, like, it's already patently crazy that any necessities markets are allowed to become commodities markets. Like, that you are allowed to sell anything that its absence could kill you is already, like, patently, like, just
patently
very
ridiculous.
silly and wrong and clearly morally wrong.
But we're gonna criminalize the physical reality of trans people's bodies out here while people are fucking starving and going hungry. The whole goddamn point of civilization. This is all backwards.
I mean, and I would go one step further than getting our needs met. I think the people that grow cacao beans in Africa and other countries who have never tasted chocolate,
that's fucking alienation.
Have you know what I mean? Like, the wealth should go back to the communities from whence that wealth was originated.
Yeah,
like,
why wouldn't they?
We're basically living in a world of corporate vampires. And I mean, this is very, very obvious in America, where it's really hard to find mom and pop places now. Like, basically every city and town is a succession of big box stores that come in and essentially just drain resources out of a community into their vampiric shell of personhood, according to this regime.
The same 5 gas stations, the same 5 fast food restaurants, the same 5 casual dining chains.
Yeah, right.
The same 5 big box, Walmart, Best Buy, etc.
Right, yeah. So, like, the idea that, like, communities should be allowed to keep their money is not a really radical thing to say. The idea that communities should be enriched by the work that they do is a very centrist stance. While we're forcibly dragging the Overton window closer to humanity, I will go ahead and say that all of this common sense stuff is really quite centrist,
Yeah, it's centrist if you start from center being physical human needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something, I think most of us can agree upon. Just like 80% of us agree upon universal health care. But for some reason, nobody can get that done. And it's constantly, but it's not our corporate vampire overlords, I swear.
Personal responsibility. You've got a personal responsibility to take care of those things off of the job clock that takes up all your time.
Yeah.
And you can't afford it because of systemic factors.
I think the oligarchs forgot that the reason that they weren't directly in charge of governing anymore was that people got too angry. I think it's because nothing major has happened in their lifetimes in terms of workers' resistance. So they they forgot that there was a reason that they weren't supposed to go into politics directly. But it seems as though some of them are finding out.
It sounds like we're all finding out.
Is that the truth?
Permanent residents and green card holders are now subject to deportation to brutal prisons in El Salvador. Arrest and deportations have now admittedly been made in error, but the regime claims there's nothing to be done now because they don't have the authority to ask for prisoners back, in spite of the very fact that they're paying the El Salvadoran government for them to be there in the first place.
The Maryland father deported in error is named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Franco Jose Caraballo Tiapia, a barber with no criminal record, was also deported without due process. While no citizens have been arrested and deported in error or on purpose yet, we do have the story of Julio Noriega, who was detained and arrested by ICE in spite of having proof of citizenship in his pocket.
Yeah, the guards at the concentration camp wouldn't even check his pocket to figure it out.
You told me to have my papers. I had my papers. And even that didn't save me because that's what Nazis do.
Yeah, I think we should point out that like green card holders and permanent residents, while not citizens, are guaranteed rights under the Constitution. Like there's a reason why we have green card holders and permanent residents, which America is not the only country that has that. You go anywhere else and you stay for a while, you stay on a visa, you stay on a green card. If you're going to stay there a really long time and you don't plan on leaving, you get married, something like that, you become a permanent resident.
Well, that's the whole point. You know, you erode the rights of immigrants, you erode the rights of trans people, you erode the rights of disabled people, and that makes it easier to take away rights from average people.
If they can erode the right of green card holders and permanent residents, your citizenship means nothing. Yeah. This is legal immigration. This is, for all its faults, how it works in America. You get these documents, you're good to stay.
Yeah. I wish it was more obvious to people in general that they're doing this, you know, deporting people that have papers because they want big numbers and because it's easy. And they're banking on the fact that people aren't going to stand up for their neighbors. And in some places, that's not exactly working out.
The father who was deported in error wasn't one of them. But most of these people have been people who were critical of Israel or the regime. So they're coming after these people to scare everybody. Really, this is what they're trying to do, is they're trying to squash opposition and they're trying to terrify people into not resisting.
Right. We have the 20 rules for fighting fascism coming up later in this episode, so stay tuned.
Legally, there have been multiple challenges to the Trump regime, but of course, Trump has a fix for that. In a new executive disorder.
that goes in the special.
Yeah.
Special.
We'll just leave that in.
That's a clip for the Patreon. Executive all that comes
disorder.
Out of this regime is executive disorder.
Yeah. Oh, new band name. Executive disorder.
disorder.
Nice.
Yeah.
In a new executive order, President Trump has stripped lawyers Jenner and Block of security clearances, barred them from entering federal buildings, which in many cases includes federal courthouses, and pressured federal contracting agencies to terminate any existing contracts for services with the firm. The order declares Jenner and Block's actions on behalf of their clients a threat to national security and undermines U.S. interest and conduct harmful activity through their pro bono work. Jenner and Block have been involved in litigation challenging Trump administration policies on immigration and trans rights. If you can't beat them, just make them illegal.
Yeah, it's a kind of political blitzkrieg, the attack that's happening on all fronts of the institutions that uphold our government and our democracy. They're attacking the judiciary. They're issuing a flurry of executive orders to deal with everything, which, by the way, are not laws. They're really more like suggestions.
They're only as legal as people pretend they're legal. I mean, not that there isn't, like, grounds for them in the Constitution, but also, like, the only thing that's preventing anybody from doing anything about it is doing something about it.
Yeah, what's really disheartening is how often the Trump regime's answer to any problem is to do whatever they want to do, and then to snidely say, well, what are you going to do about it? And so far, our institutions have answered with a resounding nothing.
What are you going to do about it? That's the question. That's the $10 million question right now.
What are we going to do about it? Redacted. We really crack ourselves up over here.
We have fun here, don't we, folks?
We do.
Shoot, what was it? Cory Booker. Okay, I couldn't remember off the top of my head who it was.
I mean, he was challenged by his constituents to do something different. And I guess this is better than wearing purple or holding up a paddle.
He kept them from passing legislation for 25 hours straight, which is in its own pretty impressive, and I think the record.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Democrats immediately caved afterwards and didn't provide him any support. So he just spent all that time and then got nothing for it.
Yep.
They threw him under the bus.
The Democrats were never going to save us. The Democrats are in the pocket of the same oligarchy. And that's the real enemy now.
Well, and as soon as we get Trump out of office or whatever, they're not going to fix the thing he broke. Part of that is because the Republicans are to drag their feet. They're not going to let them fix it. But also, most of them don't care to fix it.
I mean, it's always a matter of how many fires there are to put out, right? So for a lot of these, especially these career politicians, until they understand that they're about to get primaried or worse.
Well, so they think the worst that can happen to them is that they'll get primaried.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is they think that's the worst that's going to happen.
Yeah.
They don't really think, because this hasn't affected them. I mean, January 6th, but like, if you weren't there, or if you just can mentally sweep that under the rug, you know, or if you're new, then it hasn't affected them yet. They'll be fine. They don't think these guys are really going to come and fucking kill them.
Redacted.
I'm not saying that I'm doing that. I'm saying that these fascists in charge, the administration, won't just stop with primarying.
That's true. Yeah. I feel like the Democrats think that because they've been in the pocket of the oligarchs the whole time that they're not going to get thrown under the bus as sacrifices. But I also think that those people don't understand what a vindictive snake our self-proclaimed king happens to be.
He's vindictive, but the way these things kind of go is they have to secure their power. And part of that is purifying the institutions. So Trump has already shown that he's more than willing to go after his political enemies. And at some point, the power and prestige of the Senate or the House isn't going to protect them from him purifying the Congress, or even outright eliminating it and eliminating his political enemies right after.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what would happen if, let's say hypothetically, you know, this is all hypothetical at this point, but hypothetically there are midterms, and hypothetically cooler heads prevail in the midterms and the Democrats have control of Congress again, hypothetically, right? I wonder how many of those people, like, it's all these people that are rallying, like, you know, we'll take them in the midterms or whatever.
Well, the blue wave is coming.
The blue wave is coming.
Yeah, they're going to make the same mistakes.
Yeah. I just wonder how many of those people realize that, like, if those institutions aren't allied with him, then he's just going to dismantle them. Like, he's just going to send everyone from Congress home, and then what are they going to do?
Well, he's already been usurping the power of Congress.
Right.
That's part of the reason he's using executive orders to rule.
Right.
And these people assume that there will be midterms and that they won't be completely rigged.
Right.
And I'm not saying they will be rigged, but I'm saying they could be gerrymandered to hell, and what is that if not rigging?
Right. I mean, they've already been, that's the whole problem. That's how we got here. Like, we've allowed a rigged system to be built, and we've only ever dismantled small pieces of it. We've never actually taken apart the entire monstrosity.
It's been rigged from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were aristocrats. It's a bourgeois government. It always worked for the rich.
Right.
It's never worked for the poor.
Yep.
And any time that it had worked for the poor, they have fixed it afterwards so that it won't.
Right.
So going back, Trump, this is a fascist coup.
Mm-hmm.
Trump only has so much time to secure his power. There's a bit of a clock on this thing, and it can go for a little while. Coups are usually shorter, though, because you only have so much time to secure your authority.
Mm-hmm.
So there may not be midterms. Or if there are midterms, maybe it is a huge deciding thing.
Well, if the SAFER Act passes, then anyone whose name doesn't match their birth certificate for any reason can no longer vote, which not only obviously disenfranchises queer people who've changed their names, but also anyone who's ever changed their name for any reason, including a lot of married women.
Yeah, taking your husband's last name.
Yeah, and taking your husband's deciding vote in politics as well.
So we're not talking a lot about the SAFER Act right now. But if they're going to rig an election, you're going to hear about that right before midterms.
Yeah, it's already
don't
come
have
up
2
a few
years to
times.
wait.
We don't. It's so true.
People think midterms are happening soon, but that's 2 years away. That's 2 years of him consolidating power.
Yep.
Before, the Democrats will do anything about it?
No. We already know they won't. This has been very clear.
They still do not understand what is happening.
Yeah. And I don't think they will until it's them.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, some of these people we've talked about who've been disappeared by the government so far, one of the congressmen, there was one from New York, Mohammad Khalil, the congressman says he doesn't care. He's a terrorist. He's not going to fight for his constituent who was disappeared for political gain by the administration. He's not going to do nothing about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the slow creep of fascism every time, even though, like you said, it happens quickly, but also I think people wake up they don't see the concessions as they're happening. They just wake up one day underneath a dictatorship going, wait, when did this happen? I thought this was a free country and now I live under a dictatorship. And it comes through all of these small moments of concession where you say, oh, I don't care about this person, he's a terrorist. I don't care about this person, he's a gang member. That's the point of that poem that everyone seems to forget is that you have to protect communities that are more marginalized than you. So it never comes to the point that they come for you.
Yeah.
That's what the first they came for poem is really about.
And they came for me, and there was nobody left to speak out. Because you didn't speak out when they were coming to take people.
Yes, you didn't protect your neighbors.
Yeah, and now they're gone. They can't do nothing for you.
Yeah, precisely. It's heavy, but it's the facts of the matter that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. Kentucky's Republican-controlled legislature voted along party lines to override Governor Beshear's veto of the bill to cancel his restrictions on conversion therapy and prohibit Medicaid from covering transgender-affirming care. That means House Bill 495 will become law and has an emergency clause in it, meaning that it will go into effect immediately. Conversion therapy, in case you don't know, is just straight torture. It's torture we know doesn't work. No gay person has ever been turned straight through conversion therapy, despite many claims to the contrary.
Yeah, this loops back again into, we love you exactly as God made you, which is what we say that you are. And if you differentiate from our idealized version of what it means to be human in any way, you will be punished for it and tortured for it until you relent to obey our system and conform yourself to our structure the way that we want you to.
So that means there are gender ideologies. It's just their gender ideology.
Yeah. It's actually, again, pretty centrist, but the cisgendered heteronormative worldview is a really weird gender ideology that people push on children all the time, asking 3-year-olds if they're dating. But
that's okay,
saying that their
we're not
5-year-old
examining
son
that.
is a lady killer. And making children wear clothes that match their genitals so that you know what kind of genitals that baby has.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
Really creepy.
It is. That's the true gender ideology that exists in this country. And the rest of us just want to be allowed to exist, hurting no one, living our lives as we see fit, because that's our right as human beings in this very strange moment in time on this little rock, blue rock spinning around. Like, that's the whole purpose of us being here, is to be our most authentic selves. And if you truly love people exactly as God created them, as they so often love to say, if you truly do love people exactly as God created them, then you will accept them and you will listen to them when they tell you who they are, and you will believe them.
Well, we know they don't.
Right.
So here we are.
No, it's just conform to our way.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to note here, though, that they overrode the governor's veto. So to do that, you need not just a majority in the legislature, you need a super majority in the legislature, which they have in Kentucky. So they pushed for this bill. And they pushed for it so hard, they overrode a veto. That's not a thing that happens every day. Like, that
right.
is your state is going through some shit kind of thing. Make a note here that Andy Beshear actually really has done a lot of things in Kentucky to fight for the human rights of trans people. Hence his whole restrictions on these things in the first place. But no amount of taking care of folks is good for Republicans.
Any amount of taking care of folks is very bad for Republicans. You
Yeah.
know? Not at all what Jesus would have wanted, according to these self-proclaimed Christians.
Well, they're going back to it. They're pushing an ideology.
Yeah, an ideology that harms children as well. It's very harmful to tell a child that your unconditionally loving God only loves you under these certain conditions and will make sure you burn for all eternity in agony if you don't completely conform to what God wants of you. How is that not child abuse?
Well, it absolutely is.
Right.
It absolutely is. It's fucked up. Don't do that to your kids. It's interesting that they're all in alignment to push these ideologies, especially right now, especially as Trump's pushing through this coup. We've got a note here about the Oklahoma bill that came up recently. The state legislature in Oklahoma has declared Christ king. What an odd thing to say.
Yeah, it's also not lost on me that part of the reason some of these people are down with a monarchy is because of that kind of language has saturated their religion for so long.
Yeah, I grew up with King Jesus. I mean, that there's going to be a heavenly kingdom and that one day Christ will rule here on earth. He'll have his millennium kingdom. They were always okay with the theocracy, just like they were always okay with a monarchy because the divine right of kings ordained it. This conservative philosophy, going way back to Hobbes, has not really changed a lot.
Right.
It's fun. It's at its core the same kind of bullshit that some people should rule over other people.
Yep.
I don't know why anybody would want that.
Including the ruler, right?
Seems
Like,
bad
how
for everybody.
exhausting must that be to be constantly worried and looking over your shoulder?
Trump and Musk are the way they are because they're rich. They have been so separated from everyone their whole lives. Everybody they've ever known has kissed their ass. they don't know how to be people because they were never taught to be people because money separated them from people. It has separated them from their humanity.
Yeah.
That's why they act like wackadoos.
They also have no concept of boundaries because no one's ever enforced a boundary with them, or anyone
Yeah.
who's tried to has been bought off.
Or pushed away, or whatever they got to do to make that person go away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad and scary how easy it is for some people to dehumanize entire chunks of humanity.
I think it's easy for them because they never got humanized in the first place. I think
never
that's
got
why
socialized,
they are the way they
right?
are. Yeah. I mean, the only people who ever care about them, and this is a big stretch to say, are their parents. That's the only authority they've ever had in their lives. And most of their parents were messed up tyrants and were very distant from them. So what were they supposed to learn? How are they supposed to become humanized?
Consequences would be my guess. But
yeah. Well,
the way that we
those
all
so late
get
in life.
Yeah, well, we all are socialized through consequences for our actions. So
Good consequences, bad consequences.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Precisely.
it's part of the experience.
Some good news. A new poll shows massive opposition to the active U.S. government censorship of transgendered people. Over the past 2 months, this regime has attempted to censor and scrub all records of transgender people from federal websites, including the erasure of health resources. Even the Stonewall National Monument was rewritten to celebrate, quote, LGB rights, even though Marsha P. Johnson threw the first brick and was herself a transgender woman. At the same time, service members have been purged from the military, healthcare access stripped away, teachers threatened with prosecution for affirming trans youth, and passport updates halted. The goal here is to force transgender people out of public life and back into the closet. The new poll is from Data for Progress and reveals a public rejection of the Trump regime's goals.
This shit's just unpopular.
Yeah, it doesn't feed anybody. It doesn't house anybody. It doesn't pay anybody's electric bill. It doesn't pay anybody's phone bill. And mostly, people don't care.
Yeah. Most people have never met a trans person, and they don't think about transness at all. I think about transness all the time because I'm trans. I think about queerness all the time because I'm queer. But straight, cis, het people just do not think about this. They don't care for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like part of the quote-unquote public outcry that's happening here is largely because even though they don't personally know any trans people, they've now maybe potentially encountered one in the wild somewhere, or thought they did, because there's so much of like a fear-mongering narrative around like transvestigation, right? Exactly.
Ugh.
But like, as you were saying, and as I often say, like, what you're preoccupied with tells you something about yourself. So like, if you say you're not a trans person and you hate trans people, but that's all you can think about, baby, I got news for you.
I'm not saying...
A cis person would not be that absorbed with the whole concept because it has nothing to do with them.
On the average, yes, but I don't think that we should get into the territory of falling into the trope that all bigots are closeted homosexuals,
right?
closeted
I mean,
trans people.
yeah, it's not like white supremacists or closeted black people.
Right.
Like bigotry doesn't quite work like that.
There's enough people that you get a stereotype that that's a thing.
Like Grindr shutting down at the Republican
Yes.
National Convention.
But that's not what makes them like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. Some people may be sure. But all the Republicans have, all the conservatives have, is bigotry and hate. And anybody can get sucked into that. You don't have to be a closeted person to do that. But most people do not care, and they do not think about this stuff. This stuff is not feeding anybody. It's not taking care of anybody's material problems. And so it's deeply unpopular. I mean, I like to think that there are plenty of good people out there who thinks that we should have our rights and should be left alone and have never met us. But, you know, and I think that's the majority. But I think most people just don't think about us.
I mean, that seems pretty clear if you think about, like, the rest of society or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just the idea that someone could choose a different way of living than the one that they were handed, I think, that really upsets some people. It
upsets some people. But I've got a different perspective on that. Why is that not fascinating to you? That there are people who live different than you do? Like, how is that not interesting? You know? Like, how does that work? I mean, there's people who live differently all over the world. And you know what we do about that? Documentary shows that aren't always great, but give us a glimpse into people's lives everywhere. That shit's interesting. It should interest you.
Right. Yeah, just the idea that, like, someone could choose to be a different way than the prescribed way of being human.
Why should there be a prescribed way to be human?
Well,
I mean, it makes us weaker as a species.
Yeah.
And it makes life less fun.
Less interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. If every bird outside was a robin, you'd get pretty sick of robins.
Well, and also there would be probably ecological collapse in addition to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Diversity fills niches in life.
You know what this reminds me of, actually? There was, like, a campaign in early communist China to, like, get rid of
the sparrows.
Yeah. And then they had, like, locust plagues because there weren't enough sparrows to eat the locusts.
Yup.
Yeah. When you think you're getting rid of a pest of any variety, what you're really doing is upsetting a balanced ecosystem and potentially wreaking havoc on that entire culture and community.
If you get rid of trans people, who is going to code your software? Who's going to wear the knee-high sock market will collapse. Yeah. Why would you do that?
An Arkansas bill would prohibit barbers and hairdressers from giving gender-affirming haircuts to young people. This bill would allow for hairdressers or barbers to be sued for affirming a young person's gender identity.
So the bill defines social transitioning as any act which a minor adopts or espouses as gender identity that differs from the minor's biological sex, including changing clothing, pronouns, hairstyles, and name. So they just don't want trans people to exist in this society. Because if you can't exist as a young person, as a trans person, and you can't exist as a older person as a trans person, then there's just no place.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those in the class of, like, parental rights bills, which is really just parents treating their children like they are property. It's essentially like, you know, you've defaced my child and now I'm seeking damages.
Well, for this one particularly, it's not just parents' rights. Anybody can sue.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. And not just
really...
hairdressers, but they can sue the parents for affirming the gender of that child. So,
right.
If your kid's trans and you do anything, you take them to get they get their hair cut, or you do anything for them that someone considers gender transition, supporting gender transition, you can be sued.
Wow.
They're weaponizing the civil courts for this.
That is really dark.
Yeah.
That's like some old person on the block saw your hair and didn't like it, so now they're going to get money from somebody.
So I think maybe the worst thing about this is there's going to be some kid out there who's got supportive parents. And now the parents have to tell that child, we can't do this because we'll get sued. We can't afford for someone to lose their biggest ally, their biggest support in this, now has to turn to them and say, we can't do this.
Yeah, right. It's a way of scaring parents into teaching their trans children to hide and lie about who they are, so that they aren't retaliated against.
Yeah, it's getting those people to tell trans kids that they're never gonna be safe. They will never be safe.
I mean, that's the goal for Republicans and for Project 2025, is to make an America where no trans person is safe, where no immigrant is safe, where no disabled person is safe. And that's exactly why us freaks gotta stick together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's also just crazy to me how fragile and pathetic the system has gotten, like, to challenges, you know, like people, men in particular, have been growing their hair long since the 60s. It's been a thing for a long, long time, and you don't even have to go to a hairdresser for that. You have to not go to a hairdresser. Are they gonna be like, oh, you didn't get your child's hair cut often enough, I'm gonna sue you because gender? Like,
who knows?
Who's to say? This is it's
there's a lot of things that could happen here.
Really strange and creepy, mostly. Just like, mind your own beeswax. It has nothing to do with you. Move on. Go about your life unbothered because this person is not bothering you. You crybaby bitch.
What are you, a cop? You a cop? You got to police everybody's everything?
I mean, I think that's the lie that capitalism sells people, right? Is like, you too will get to be the boss of your own little kingdom and put feet on necks and kick people while they're down, etc.
The lie of the temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I'm going to be rich one day.
We are all 3 bad months away from being homeless.
Yeah.
And none of us are 3 good months away from being a billionaire. And if that doesn't engender some class consciousness in you, then you should think about it a little longer.
I think you should think about why you need to think about that so much. Maybe you got a lot of work you need to do. Okay, so I was reading this this Reddit thread about today about making space for MAGA people to come over. And oh, wow, do I have feelings about that? I mean, we do. We need them to come over. We need them to stop acting like they're acting and turn this shit around. But, like, I mean, fuck. These people have made my life fucking miserable. Like, they have stolen all the opportunities I've had in my life. I just don't. How do I accept that with open arms? And they're not gonna come over saying, we're sorry, we fucked up. I was wrong about black people. I was wrong about trans people. I was wrong about immigrants. It's very unlikely. They're going to bring all that bullshit over here.
And also, too, like, it's really up to people with privilege and spoons. It's to do that educating and to do that, embracing of MAGA people and slowly moving their Overton window towards humanity and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's not like they come back with an apology even. And also, on some level, forgiveness is a thing that has to be earned.
Yeah, it's earned through action.
Yeah.
Not just words and saying, oh, I'll do better.
Yeah.
You gotta prove that.
And also, too, a world where forgiveness isn't earned, where you're expected to just forgive wrongdoers all the time, works out really well for the wrongdoers, works out really well for people that don't care about boundaries or other people, because the people they harm are always asked to suck it up and be the bigger person.
Yeah.
And I reject that world summarily. I think that is a crock. I don't believe that that's right. And I think that that is probably one of the main things that led us to this point of like where we are in terms of colonization, where we are in terms of capitalism has a lot to do with this ideology of like, oh, well, you forgive me my trespasses just so I can trespass again tomorrow. And you'll forgive me then too.
Yeah.
No, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
That's not going to fly this time. You need to come over with intention to make it right with your physical body.
And I understand that, like, you're gonna have to deprogram and learn. But I feel like if you're MAGA and you're coming over, you need to be prepared to be really cool about that. Because there is space. There is space on the left. There is space in rational centrist, all humans need all needs met, world. But oh God, they have fucking hurt me so much my whole life. I do not have a lot of spoons for that. I don't have a lot of patience. Yeah. You can only push me so far.
Yeah, for
I can only do so much.
For people that have the privilege and the spoons, then like, great, good. But like asking that of marginalized people who are just struggling to continue to exist is a little rich.
It's pretty fucking rich. Yeah. Marcy Rington, a 20-year-old trans college student, was recently arrested and sent to a men's jail for entering the Florida State Capitol bathroom. This is kind of an interesting story. Apparently, she sent letters to the entire state Florida Senate saying that she was going to be there, that she was going to use the restroom, knowing that it was illegal, and that deep down in their hearts, they knew this bill was wrong, and so they would not arrest her. She describes herself as a political centrist, and she's a devout Catholic. While in jail, they wouldn't even let her pray the rosary. She was very upset about that. She intended to do that while she was in the bathroom before she was arrested. I've seen a lot of discourse online that has been good, and I think a lot has been really bad. A lot of people are really upset with her because they think she's a conservative. And, you call yourself a political centrist these days, that's pretty conservative. But she's a 20-year-old college student. She's not had a lot of experience for herself yet. And I think what she did while being naive was incredibly brave. Like, I admire that she knows this law is wrong and is going to stand up about it. I think what we need to do right now is just let a centrist, a conservative, do a thing that's right. We were just talking a second ago about when conservatives say they want to turn this around, that there needs to be some space. And I think we need to give her a little space to do the right thing.
Yeah. That we can certainly extend some grace. I do think you're right. It's both like naive and quite brave.
It's incredibly naive that she thought that they would change their mind. And it's incredibly naive that she did not secure legal protection or secure a lawyer before doing this.
Yeah. I wonder... I mean, this is something I wonder as a citizen, but also something I wonder as an interfaith minister. Like, I wonder what impact this will have on her faith. Both her faith in, the system as a centrist, and then also her wider religious faith.
Well, I think this is the thing that opens her eyes and gets her to realize that the people in power know what they're doing is wrong, and they're happy to keep doing it.
I hope so. More of us need to come to that conclusion so that we can be ready and willing to do what's necessary.
I appreciate her doing that. I appreciate her, but she's put herself in a terrible position now. I don't know if they haven't taken her to trial yet. So I don't know if she's gotten out on bail. And if she has, I don't believe that Minnesota or
Florida.
No. Illinois It's the state she's from. Has extradition to Florida, so I mean, she should probably just not go back to Florida.
Right.
She's got her grandparents there, and she visits often, but I think this might be the end of Florida for her.
I mean, I think this is the end of a bunch of states for anyone who's trans or gender nonconforming in any way. I mean, even a cis person that's gender nonconforming isn't safe in a lot of these places anymore.
Oh, yeah, well, they'll target you and say you're trans.
Right.
We've seen a lot of people get transvestigated in the bathroom, and then they
Right.
get arrested, and it turns out they were cis the whole time.
In what universe are women safer in a world where someone can demand to see their ID or their genitals just because they need to pee?
I read a story just this week about a cop who was arrested after they figured out that he was raping women at traffic stops. So if a cop can just ask to see your genitals, I mean, how do you know you're not being raped, first off? And how do you know that you're not about to be raped?
Right. Yeah. In what universe does that protect women from anything, but in particular from sexual assault? Like,
it's just easier to let trans people use the bathroom.
yeah.
You know, because then I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like this whole terrible train of causality we're coming down.
Yeah. Also, I saw it was a stand-up comic, but I thought he had a really good point. It was, these bathroom bills say that they're trying to protect women from predators, but what predator on earth is like, oh man, I'd really like to go into the woman's restroom to prey on some women, but darn it, shucks, I'm not allowed in there. Like, in what universe?
If the rules weren't going to protect you then, they're not going to protect you now.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good point, actually. I was like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
No one's doing that.
Rape is already against the law, you know? So, like, if that was the thing that's stopping you, nothing was stopping you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, gosh darn it. I have to wait until they come out because I'm not allowed in there.
No, this is really scary, though. If they can arrest, I mean, we've had bathroom bills as a thing in this country for like the last 4 or 5 years now. It's making it really hard to be trans in public. But if they're actually going to start arresting people for being trans in a bathroom, this sets a really dangerous precedent. Not just Florida, but the rest of the country.
Yeah. Not to mention sending a trans woman to a men's jail is barbaric and insane.
Oh my gosh.
No,
yeah.
cut insane. We're trying really hard to not use sane coded language.
We're trying not to use ableist language, but understanding what happens to trans women in men's jails and men's prisons. Just recently, they have made it to where the state will no longer allow you to receive HRT as a trans woman in the Florida state prison system. So this means they're going to forcibly detransition you and then house you with male inmates. And not only that, there's a history of V-coding in this country that still occurs to this day in all 50 states.
And V-coding, for you listeners who might not know, is when a trans woman is put in a cell with a bunch of male inmates for the express purpose of being sexually assaulted to get better behavior out of those male inmates.
Yeah. We may want to put a content warning there.
Yeah.
But
or we'll put a content warning at the beginning of the episode, like on the screen.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah.
V-coding is specifically to bribe these prisoners to pay them pay them in rape. Yeah. They're deliberately putting us in a situation where we will be raped in prison. And the majority of trans women in prison are women of color. Mm-hmm. So this is an even bigger issue if you take race into consideration.
Yeah. And don't forget that the cruelty is the point. With
the cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But V-coding has been a thing long before the Trump administration got into power. This is a deep-seated evil in our country, just like just like racism is a deep-seated evil in our country, it has been codified into law.
Yep. Yeah.
Just like slavery before that.
Well, and slavery to this day.
Slavery to this day.
Yeah, and slavery.
Codified in law.
Yep. Slavery to this day, codified in law, that if you are a prisoner, you
14th Amendment.
are a slave. Yeah.
Slavery is still legal punishment for crime. Yeah. And again, I think we really need to consider a lot of people still think America is a good country, that what we stand for are good things, but what they're being sold is a bill of goods that isn't true. America's never been a good country. No country has ever been a good country.
Right. Regimes are never good, but this one is particularly bad. Yeah. In disability news, Dr. Mehmet Oz has been confirmed by the Senate to lead Medicare and Medicaid. Well, that'll be great. At least Dr. Oz believes in vaccines.
He does, but he also believes in privatization. So part of the reason they want to do these things is to knock us off of these so-called entitlement programs. And they're called entitlement programs because you are entitled to them. This belongs to you as a human being. This is a human right healthcare. But Mehmet Oz believes in privatizing every little bit of that he can. So he's going to get his cut coming and going on this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's been the major players of oligarchy all getting their palms greased.
Yeah.
Okay. In additional news, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump regime from cutting billions in federal dollars that support COVID-19 initiatives and public health projects throughout the country. So that's cool. But we already know that this regime doesn't care what the judges say. Their response to everything is, what are you going to do about it? And the judiciary system is pretty toothless without another branch of government backing it up with consequences. So this will probably be one more court order that we see the Trump regime just completely ignore.
Well, I mean, not court. Yeah, court order. They have already refused to acknowledge court orders several times now.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a thing going last month is kind of when they started this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But those people they sent to El Salvador, they did that deliberately against a court order. The judge told them to turn that plane around, and they just didn't do it. So do court orders mean anything now?
No.
I think that it only means something if they want it to. They'll only abide by it if it serves them for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's really bizarre is that all of this, defying court orders, usurping Congress's power of the purse, and you would think that like these career politicians that require on the stability of the system in order to keep their jobs would be a little bit more alarmed by what's happening. But I think that these people think that as long as they're close enough to Trump, then they can reap some financial benefits without suffering too many consequences. I think everybody just wants to line their pockets as quickly as possible, and they don't care what happens to the rest of it.
They're pulling the copper out of the walls on their way out.
Yeah.
They're
This administration is a handful of crackheads. I mean, literally. They do a lot of coke and a lot of amphetamines.
Yeah, and Pete Hegseth is fucking drunk all the time.
Hey, DUI hire.
I mean, yeah, fucking DUI.
Yeah, so that's bananas. Truly astounding. And we'll see how all that shakes out.
Well, again, if this is all about consolidating power, and they have a short amount of time to do that, so we'll see what plays out.
In Minnesota, a bill would codify Trump derangement syndrome as a real mental illness. This bill is unlikely to pass, but it is uniquely frightening in that the codification of Trump derangement syndrome as a real mental illness would mean that any administration could involuntarily commit anyone for daring to speak against this regime.
They could literally just say you're crazy and dismiss anything you have to say or do.
Yeah. This is particularly worrying because it would be an avenue to involuntarily commit literally anyone for any reason that you wanted to.
I mean, they're not like saying exactly here in the bill, but I mean, maybe. Why not? They could just use this to do anything they want, I guess. It seems like that's what they've been doing so far.
Right.
So that's an upsetting piece of news. In a more upsetting pieces of news, the whole Madison Square Garden thing. Have you seen this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So they're using facial recognition on people who come into Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
And the machine says, hey, I recognize this guy. He's on our ban list, I guess. Well, the guy was the dude who didn't have anything to do with Madison Square Garden, other than that he made a T-shirt criticizing the owner. So billionaire oligarchs can just decide with facial recognition technology that they don't want you in their ballparks. Is it a ballpark?
Madison Square Garden is like an event venue.
That's what I
for
thought.
like concerts.
Yeah, they do like
things
concerts
like
and
that.
shit.
Yeah.
Madison Cube Garden is the one I'm thinking where they do Blurns Ball. Futurama.
Okay, right, in Futurama, right, that makes sense. That the facial recognition technology stuff is really creepy, but then also like having a profile and a list of people that are not allowed at your venue because they criticized you is one, very much unconstitutional, because people have the right to free speech and they're allowed to criticize you if you want to. Put your big boy pants on and deal with it.
In theory, we have the right to freedom of speech.
Right. So A, unconstitutional, and B, really fragile. Oh, really poor fragile. Baby.
Really
Someone made a T-shirt you didn't like, so you had to put them on the no-fly list. Mm-hmm. Oh, please. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing where like patriarchy is constantly like, oh, I'm big and tough and strong. You see this with the dictator all the time. He's big and tough and strong and he can take on anything, but don't criticize him or he'll cry. Like, pick one, my dude.
Speaking of criticizing billionaires, did you see Elon Musk on TV crying about people who are making fun of Tesla and who are laughing about the stock price drop?
Tesla.
I love Tesla.
Everything's computer.
Everything's computer. Oh my God, no! He was so funny on TV though.
Oh, that's pitiful.
Don't you think people who would do that? Don't you think they're evil?
No.
Talking about his fucking stock price.
Oh.
People laughing about his stock price dropping.
They're evil.
They're evil. They're evil.
Almost like people like to see consequences. In fact, I would argue that that's one of the main things that keeps people buying into Christianity is that there's this idea with heaven and hell, right? That like, even if no one catches you in life, if you are a giant piece of shit, you will get your comeuppance in the next life. And I think that thought is really comforting to people, but I also think that it prevents people from seeking out consequences in this life. They're like, oh, he'll get punished eventually. No, punish him now.
I think you're right. Like, there are people who think they don't have power and they'll just let it slide because they'll get one over in the next life. But also, like, have you thought that philosophy through? How can God be just? How can there be a just God if he can punish you infinitely for a finite crime? Like, the worst human beings, the worst people, I'm not going to say names, we all got one in our head, should they really suffer in a burning pit of sulfur for all eternity? Keep in mind, eternity doesn't end.
Right.
Like, we experience time pretty finitely as human beings. We experience minute after minute. But what about eon after eon of suffering and torment with no hope of reprieve?
Yeah, so
How can God be just if that is the punishment?
I'm going to nerd out a little bit about that. The idea that we have of like the sulfur, fire, and brimstone hell, right? That is not a biblical idea.
Oh, sure, but that's what people believe.
It is, but it's not biblical. It's something that some preacher in like the 1700s
It comes from Plato's myth of So it's referencing Tartarus inside Greek hell, which Greek hell is also cold, with the exception of Tartarus. So yeah, it's not part of Hebrew ideology.
One Puritan pastor read some Greek mythology.
Hebrew mythology, not ideology. Yes.
Yeah. Hebrew? I thought you said Greek. Plato.
So Plato's myth of is that's where our concept of hell comes from.
Right.
But Christianity pulling from Jewish mythology on hell.
So all this news is pretty bad. And let's say you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is terrible, and I would really like to contribute in a meaningful way to resisting this regime. Well, it just so happens that we have 20 rules for fighting fascism, and we would like to share them with you now. Rule number 1, do not obey in advance.
If you think the regime is going to crack down on memes that they don't like, and you're posting memes, you should keep posting memes. Don't stop doing things you do or things that you think are right because you think they're going to tell you not to, or you're going to get in trouble for it in the future.
Rule number 2, defend institutions against capture and collapse.
Currently, they're attacking the EPA, the Department of Education, the Social Security Administration. We need to be out there trying to prevent them from getting into these agencies and shutting them down or gutting them. We need to be voicing our displeasure, contacting our congresspeople, being out in the streets, voicing our displeasure at this.
Rule number 3, contest one-party rule. It defaults to oppression. We're not quite at that point yet, although in a way, because both the Democrats and the Republicans are in the pockets of the same oligarchs. As a longtime critic of mine likes to say, right wing, left wing, same vulture.
Well, they do control all 3 branches of government right now.
Right.
So they've got pretty much power over the state.
Rule number 4, challenge signs and symbols of hate or loyalty.
Get you a Sharpie pin, mark that shit out, put a sticker over it, cover it up, write it off, change the message. Whatever it is, do not let Nazi propaganda stay on our streets.
We actually were talking earlier about how the T has been removed from the Stonewall National Monument.
But people keep graffitiing it in.
Right.
Oh, you love to see it.
Rule number 5, remember and champion professional ethics.
Do what you feel is right. If you're a doctor and they tell you that treating certain patients, they don't want you doing that, keep doing it. It's the right thing to do.
Rule number 6, resist paramilitaries pushing violence into politics.
That would be your Proud Boys, your Oath Keepers, your 3%ers, all those people who come to counter-protest, pride marches, the Tesla dealership protests right now. Elon Musk is trucking in counter-protesters to support Tesla.
Rule number 7, be ready to say no to unlawful orders.
If somebody tells you to do something that you know to be morally wrong or illegal, don't do it.
This applies in particular to people in the military.
Yeah, if they tell you you need to shoot civilians, maybe you need to think about what you're doing real quick.
Sir, no, sir.
Sir, I cannot follow that order. That is not a legal order. That is a thing. You may get reprimanded for it. You may get court-martialed, but it is a legal defense that you can use. It's supposed to be your right as a soldier.
Rule number 8, stand out, set an example, and others will follow.
Get involved, get educated, watch the news, read the shit, know what's happening. And tell others about it.
Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your elected representatives. Protest.
Talk to your friends. Get them to come to protest.
Mm-hmm. Rule number 9, be mindful of parroting others' words. Read widely.
There's a Ferengi proverb, hear all, trust nothing. It's a rule of acquisition, not proverb. You should be reading multiple sources of news. You should be looking at multiple sources of news. Don't just get somebody on YouTube who reads the headlines to you once a day. Look at as many sources as you can and think about who gains from me hearing this. Who could have an agenda here? Is this accurate? Does this sound believable? You need to do some critical thinking work for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Rule number 10, believe in truth, not lies or wishful thinking.
I guess the question there is how you figure out truth.
Right. It's really hard in a post-truth world. Right?
Yeah.
One of the most important things about critical thinking is discernment. So when you're listening to a message, you're thinking about, well, who is it that's sponsoring this message? And what do they receive? What benefit do they get from me believing them? So a great example of this is like climate change. Have all of the scientists in the world banded together in a secret conspiracy to lie about climate change? Well, what would they have to gain from that? And how difficult would it be to do that?
Could you keep that secret?
Right. So, like, how plausible is that? Not very. On the other hand, like, if a handful of oil companies are saying climate change is a hoax and they have a clear benefit from you believing that, which is that you'll keep using oil and gas, then, like, it's pretty easy to see, who's lying to me. Is it the billionaires that are making money off of the fossil fuel industry, or is it every scientist in the world?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rule number 11, investigate. Verify information. Follow sources you trust to do the same, and share what you learn.
Don't just take people's word for it. Look it up. If somebody tells you something and it seems like it may not be right, or it seems like it might be right, look that shit up. And when you find the answer, share that answer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let other people walk around in ignorance.
Rule number 12, make eye contact and small talk. Be observant. Break down barriers and learn whom to trust.
When you talk to somebody, don't just run at them and say, like, have you heard the good news of communism, anarchy, whatever your ideology? Maybe talk to somebody first, like, as a person, before you try to proselytize something to them. And do you really need to be proselytizing anything? Probably not.
Right. This also loops back into something that we were saying earlier in the podcast, which is this is an important time to get to know your neighbors.
It's a very important time to get to know your neighbors. Who are you going to turn to when times are bad? If not your neighbors and your friends and your family.
Rule number 13, go outside and take action with others in person.
We can't meme or keyboard warrior our way out of this. We got to go outside. We got to take action, direct action against the things that are happening.
Direct action gets the goods.
Direct action gets the goods.
And that's been proven over and over again in over 100 years of labor history.
Yeah,
Rule number 14, protect your privacy. Don't indulge in distractions.
You don't have to tell everybody your business. You don't have to post everywhere you go on Facebook. Social media companies aren't there to help us. They're there to gather our information. It's free because we're the product. Mm-hmm. And we know now that there are agencies that are combing through immigrants' social media profiles, looking for people they can deport. And if they're not already doing that to us, everybody, citizens included, they're going to be at some point.
Yes.
You don't think the police look up your social media when they are investigating you? They do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the FBI will look through that? You don't think your employers look through that? Or a private investigator is going to dig through your social media profiles and talk to everybody you know?
Yeah.
They'll do it. And they'll do it to get whatever evidence they can on you.
And that's not to say that engaging on social media is always a distraction. We were saying earlier, posting memes is good. Using social media to connect with other people and to share information is also good.
Yeah, that's great, but you don't have to give everybody your business.
Right. Protect your privacy, especially like your address and your phone number. Protect your privacy, especially like your routines. And don't engage in distractions, as in don't mindlessly scroll, but actually actively have something to say in that sphere. And don't shy away from speaking just because the FBI might be looking at it. They are, and that's not a good reason to be silent.
Exactly.
Rule number 15, donate to and participate in good causes.
Lambda Legal is out there fighting on the behalf of the transgender and queer communities against these laws and executive orders that the Trump administration has been putting out. Food Not Bombs is an amazing organization. I especially want to give a shout out to the Internet Archive right now. They have done an incredible amount of work preserving web pages and documents that the Trump administration has been deleting from federal websites. They also have books and music and movies for the past 100 years or more. They preserve all kinds of internet web pages. They preserve all kinds of web pages on the internet and preserve the internet's history. They're in a number of legal battles with the Trump administration and big publishers that want to get them shut down, and they could always use the money. And Wikipedia. I know a lot of people give Wikipedia shit, but it's a free online encyclopedia. Anything you need to look up, you can look it up there. And it does a pretty good job of representing the information as accurately as people can. And it's all volunteer. If you're looking for a good cause, that's a good cause. Contribute to the sum of human knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Rule number 16, seek out and learn from peers in other countries. Reading about the Zapatista movement is a really great example of this, I think, as also reading about the Spanish Civil War. Those are important resources for us at this particular moment in history.
Yeah. This is really mutual aid and skill sharing. You know, there's a lot of people in our communities who know how to do things that would be really helpful if we knew. Car maintenance, carpentry, all kinds of stuff. And I'd bet you $100 or something you know that somebody else could benefit from.
Mm-hmm. Rule number 17, call out manipulative or divisive language. If you hear someone using a slur, speak up. Educate them.
Yeah. Ableist language, sexist language. Don't suffer a misogynist or a racist in your community.
Rule number 18, keep calm when the crisis arrives. Do not give up.
It's really important not to despair right now. There's a lot going on. It's very easy to be depressed and disengage. They're counting on people to be depressed and disengage. Things won't always be like this. Even if, God forbid, the fascists win, they can't win forever. Mm-hmm. Fascism is an inherently unstable ideology. They will lose. It is inevitable. And we have to be here for when they do.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Rule number 19, be patriotic by advancing ideals, not grievances.
Believe in something. I mean, believe in the goodness of your fellow man. Believe in a better future. Believe in the fact that we don't have to live like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do it, don't make your ideals, don't make them based on petty grievances. I hate the Trump administration. I hate conservatism. I hate a lot of things. But hate isn't going to lead me to a better future.
Mm-hmm.
I have to want something good for me and other people, and that's got to be the focus.
Mm-hmm.
We got to move forward. We can't cling to the past.
Yes. And rule number 20, be as courageous as you can.
Yeah, now's the time. Now's the time to stand up and do something bold. Now's the time. It's scary,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're not here for a time like this, what are we here for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're all gonna die. Every single person listening to this, you're gonna die.
It's the
It's
great
just a matter of
equalizer.
when and how.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it to be for something? And you don't have to die to do something courageous. Maybe I shouldn't have led with that. But
Right. Be as courageous as you can. For some of us, this is going to mean the ultimate sacrifice. But for most of us, this is going to entail small forms of resistance in everyday moments. Whether that's disrupting ICE agents as they go to arrest your neighbors, whether that's mutual aid for a family that needs food or childcare.
what if that's just giving a finger to a cop?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Courageous. As
Yeah.
courageous as you can.
Everyday little actions, they all add up.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your ear to the ground. 5051 and Indivisible continue to rally in response to the overwhelming glut of policies coming out of this regime. More will be coming in the future.
In the meantime, are you a part of any local mutual aid projects? Food Not Bombs is a nationwide organization of like-minded leftists who make a difference in their communities every week, from free stores to food banks. Mutual aid is going to be how we get through the coming years, so connect wherever you can to organizations that are doing the work. Remember, feeding your neighbors is punk as fuck.
Well, folks, that's all the time we got today. In summary, respect my existence or expect my resistance.
And remember, dear listener, as a queer person, a disabled person, a neurodiverse person, or any other marginalized minority, your existence is resistance.
This has been Seagull flying into a gorgeous red sunset. KT Sunshine.
And Rascal Guru Reverend Nadine Morsh in light and solidarity with each and every one of you.
And remember,
us freaks gotta stick together.